It was a typical Tuesday afternoon when Jason's entire life quietly, but irreversibly, took a turn. A devoted manager at a mid-sized tech company, he had been drowning in endless deadlines and constant meetings. For weeks, he hadn't allowed himself even a breath of stillness. On impulse, he decided to take a longer lunch break than usual, an indulgence he rarely allowed. That seemingly insignificant decision would upend everything he thought he knew. Jason was nothing if not predictable. His daily routine included lunch at the same corner deli near his office. But today, something tugged at him, an urge to step out of the ordinary. So he drove across town to a small, cozy café he and his wife, Amanda, used to visit in the early days of their relationship. Years had passed since their last visit, but something about the place called to him. The moment he stepped inside, the scent of fresh coffee and warm pastries stirred memories he hadn't felt in a long time. A faint smile flickered across his face. He chose a quiet seat by the window, placed a simple order, and pulled out his phone to scroll through work emails. Around him, a soft buzz of conversation created a comforting background hum. Outside the window, the world moved gently on, and for once, he felt strangely at peace. Then he saw her. At first, he blinked, unsure if his eyes were playing tricks. Amanda should have been at work, nowhere near this part of town. But there she was, unmistakably her, walking hand in hand with another man. She was laughing, freely, joyfully, in a way Jason hadn't seen in years. They stopped just outside the cafe window, close enough for Jason to see the affection in their eyes. The man leaned in, their faces nearly touching. A shiver ran through Jason's entire body. His heart pounded. He felt anchored to his chair, every limb frozen, mind swirling in disbelief. The pair disappeared into a boutique across the street. For a brief moment, Jason tried to convince himself it was all innocent, a coincidence, a misread situation. But something inside him twisted, and he couldn't ignore it. Driven by a storm of anxiety and suspicion, he paid his bill and stepped outside into the crisp afternoon air. A dozen questions raced through his head. Who was that man? Why was Amanda here, with him? He followed from a careful distance, slipping into the boutique a few moments after them. There, he watched Amanda hold up outfits, turning to the man for his opinion. They looked every bit the loving couple, wrapped in their own private world. With every approving nod and shared smile, Jason felt something inside him tighten. Eventually, they left the boutique and walked hand in hand toward a nearby hotel. Jason stopped in his tracks, rooted to the pavement. He watched them enter the building without hesitation or backward glance. Reality slammed into him like a brick wall. His wife was seeing someone else, and he had stumbled upon it purely by chance, during what was supposed to be a quiet, uneventful lunch break. His thoughts spiraled. Anger. Heartache. Shock. Confusion. The world around him blurred, but one thing rose above the chaos: he needed answers. He needed to confront Amanda. But not now. Not here. He needed to stay calm and think things through. That evening, Jason returned home, the weight of the day dragging behind him. Amanda was already there, greeting him at the door with a familiar smile and a kiss on the cheek. The scene felt surreal, like a lie wrapped in routine. "How was your day?" she asked, her tone light and carefree. Jason forced a smile, fighting to keep the tremor from his voice. "Busy," he replied. "Same as always." They sat down for dinner, exchanging casual conversation. Amanda seemed perfectly composed, as though nothing were amiss. Jason studied her across the table, stunned by her ease. How could she act so normal? In the days that followed, Jason hovered between confrontation and observation. He decided to wait, to gather evidence, to make absolutely sure. It was a torturous strategy, but his patience soon began to reveal more. Amanda's habits shifted. She stayed late at work more often. Her phone became more guarded. She began mentioning spontaneous errands and trips. The patterns were forming, and Jason couldn't ignore them. Eventually, he hired a private investigator, someone who could confirm what he already feared, but needed to know for certain. The waiting was unbearable, but Jason knew he couldn't rush this. He needed solid, indisputable proof before he said anything. When the private investigator finally handed over the file, Jason's worst suspicions were no longer just fears, they were fact. Inside the envelope were photographs, time-stamped logs, and detailed notes documenting Amanda's meetings with a man named David. Their affair wasn't a recent mistake. It had been going on for months. Romantic rendezvous, overnight stays, weekend trips, everything laid bare in black and white. That night, Jason sat alone in his dimly lit living room, flipping through the evidence piece by piece. His chest tightened with every page. Rage, heartbreak, disbelief, the emotions collided violently within him. The life he thought he was living had crumbled into fiction. And the woman he once adored had been living a lie behind his back. But amid the storm of pain, something else began to rise, a sense of resolution. He finally knew what needed to be done. The following morning, Jason woke up with a heavy heart but a clear mind. He found Amanda in the kitchen, calmly sipping her coffee, unaware of the truth he now carried. He sat across from her, his face lined with exhaustion and determination. "Amanda," he said quietly, "we need to talk." She turned to face him, sensing the weight in his tone. "What is it?" she asked, her brow furrowing slightly. Jason didn't say another word. He simply slid the manila folder across the table. Amanda opened it slowly, and as her eyes moved over the photos and reports, her expression changed. Her face drained of color. Her hands began to tremble. The silence between them deepened. "Jason." She began, her voice cracking. He raised a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "Don't," he said firmly. "I've seen everything. I just want the truth." "Why?" Amanda's shoulders dropped as she stared down at her lap. "I don't know," she whispered. "It wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't mean to hurt you." Her words hit him like a blade. He wanted to believe there was a reason, a justification, anything. But all he felt was the sting of betrayal. "I gave you my trust," Jason said, struggling to steady his voice. "We built a life together. Was it really that easy to throw away?" Amanda couldn't respond. Tears ran down her cheeks as she searched for words that refused to come. The silence stretched long and heavy. In the days that followed, Jason barely recognized his own life. He packed a bag and left the house, a place that now felt like a monument to broken promises. He filed for divorce, understanding deep down that whatever they had once been couldn't survive what had happened. Amanda reached out repeatedly, apologizing, begging for a second chance. But Jason didn't respond. He knew there was no fixing what had been shattered. The love they'd shared was now poisoned by deception. Slowly, Jason began to piece his life back together. He leaned on his friends, spent more time with family, and buried himself in work. He picked up new hobbies, anything to help him rediscover the version of himself that existed before his marriage had overshadowed everything. One afternoon, while walking through the park, he noticed a young family playing in the grass. The children's laughter rang out in the summer air, and the parents' joyful expressions stirred something inside him. For the first time in a long while, Jason felt a flicker of something he hadn't known he missed: hope. Hope that life didn't end with heartbreak. That even after devastation, joy could still find its way in. Hope that somewhere down the road, happiness could return. And with that quiet, unexpected feeling, Jason took his first real step forward, not looking back with regret, but stepping into a future with open arms. His story had been one of betrayal and heartbreak, yes, but also of strength, healing, and rediscovery. He had walked through one of the darkest chapters of his life and come out the other side changed, but not broken. Stronger. Wiser. And ready to begin again.